contributes about 90% of on diversifying the economy. And for the past 20 years, there have been various attempts at reforming the industry. However, none of these efforts has yielded any tangible result until the introduction of the Petroleum Industry Bill, PIB 2020. President Buhari has signed into law the very crucial bill reforming the oil and gas sector, which has been some 20 years in the making. What exactly, now over to you, what exactly is at stake in Nigeria's new Petroleum Industry Act, and will the change finally be achieved? Over to you, Dr. Chigozie.
Yes, like you said, it's no more Petroleum Industry Bill. It has finally become the Petroleum Industry Act.
Yes.
That means a law having been signed into law by the President of the Republic of Nigeria. So, what is the PIA? The Petroleum Industry Act is a new law that was passed, like you said, in 2021.
Yeah.
And it took effect, in theory, from then to reform the oil and gas sector of the Nigerian economy. You captured it, the oil and gas sector contributes about 10% of Nigerian GDP and over 90% of Nigerian foreign exchange earning, the foreign currency that we earn. So we depend almost solely on the oil and gas sector to get our foreign currency, the dollars and the hard currencies that we need to do trading, to import the goods we need, and probably to put money into our foreign reserve, because it is important that every country has a strategic foreign reserve, and that reserve is the basis for which the credit rating of a country is measured. Whether somebody can lend you money depends on how much you can see. That decides your ability to pay back. So, having said that, the major objective of the law is to change the face of Nigerian oil and gas industry. Nigeria has large deposits of oil and gas, but the petroleum resources have not brought fortunes to the area as we are. At least the common Nigerians. When you compare Nigeria with countries that have oil, countries like United States of America, countries like Saudi Arabia, countries like Russia, other smaller countries that have petroleum resources, you will discover that, for example, United Arab Emirates utilize the petroleum resources to build new cities. A lot of people do not know that the city of Dubai that everybody goes to is a city that is built in the desert where there's nothing. They utilize the earnings from their oil resources to build a new trading city that is one of the most beautiful cities in the Arab nation. And Dubai to buy things. The income makes got to be resources. The good Saudi Arabia, they have developed their countries with the resources. Second, South America, even when like countries are in the South America, countries like Venezuela, Angola, that have, in fact, in Africa, Nigeria and Angola seem to be the most endowed in terms of oil and gas resources. Yet they belong to the poorest of the countries in the world. So the questions have been, what have been the problems bedeviling Nigeria and Nigerian oil and gas? Nigeria has not been able to use the enormous resources that it has made from the sale of oil and gas to develop the country. Or why is it that the oil and gas sector has become the conduit pipe of Nigerian existence? So much so that in the host communities that where the oil and gas resources are produced have become the worst for it. I mean, environmental degradations here and there, removal, dislocation of people from their source of livelihood, farmers losing farms and source of livelihood because oil exploitation is going on, and yet they have nothing to show for it. You can't believe that the Oloibri, where oil was first exploited in 1956, is like a sham. You would expect that such a country, such a town that occupies a historical position in Nigerian economic development would be a mecca of a sort. It to be a site. But what do you have? An environmentally desecrated place. So, people have criticized the role of Nigerian oil and gas in the development of Nigerian economy, and this reform to see if the oil and gas sector could be taking off the clutches of those who milk the country dry, because it's been operated as government business, and in government business, it is nobody's business. It has become a cash cow for corrupt politicians. Because you see that in Nigeria today, people want to be governors, people want to be local government chairman, people want to be president, people want to be appointed one. Everybody goes to Abuja to share money. Nobody is thinking of to make. Everybody is thinking of how to share money. Because that sector, the unfortunate
Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, the network is actually interfering, but go ahead. I can hear you now.
So I said that the oil and gas sector became an unfortunate cash cow. Everybody was trying to milk to dryness, to death, even if you meant that, without people thinking of how to develop actually the oil and gas sector. So that is the reason that gave birth to the new law, the Petroleum Industry Act. And what is it? The law targets to bring up new governance structures in the Nigeria's oil and gas sector. It tends to, there are major planks. One of the major planks is to create a new governance structure. Because the way it was governed, NNPC was an omnibus that did everything. Now, God creates a new governance structure. Another plank of the law, I'll come back to the governance structure. Another plank of the law is to create a structure that will take care of the environmental degradation that is taking place in the host communities where the oil and gas are produced. Another major plank of the PIA is a reward system for the host communities that are, that host the companies that produce the oil and gas resources. There are other smaller aspects of the PIA, but these are the major planks which we probably need to look at within the time we'll have available in this program.
Yeah.
Now, in the governance structure, before now, everybody knows that NNPC is both the custodian of government interest in the oil and gas sector, the regulator in the oil and gas sector. You cannot be regulating and be partaking in the business you regulate all at the same time. The DPR, Department of Petroleum Resources, which is a subsidiary, or which was a subsidiary of the NNPC, regulatory agency used by government in licensing and regulating the activities of the oil companies, the international oil companies or IOCs. NNPC has so many other subsidiaries. There are subsidiaries that are involved in the exploration of oil and gas resources. There are subsidiaries that are involved in the engineering that is needed in oil and gas resources. There are subsidiaries that are involved in the marketing of both the downstream products and the upstream products of the country. When we talk about downstream, breaking it down, downstream has to do with those activities and products that people can use directly. I mean, people go to petrol station to buy petrol, what we call the PMS, technically, which everybody calls petrol, and colloquially called fuel. But scientifically, fuel is anything that can give you energy. So probably the better thing to say is petrol. People buy petrol, people buy what they call diesel, and people buy kerosene for domestic use and for aeroplane uses. These are downstream products of refining crude oil. You have processed it and got product. There are other products like petrochemicals that are used in plastics and all whatnot. The upstream activities and products that come in the exploration and bringing up the crude oil from the ground. These are the upstream activities. So NNPC was entirely responsible for all this. Now, the structure has changed. The Petroleum Industry Act has created the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency. Is solely responsible for the activities of the oil and gas trade upstream level. That is, finding the oil, digging the oil, getting the oil, and marketing the crude oil. They are the police that is in charge of that section now. Then there's another regulatory agency which is called Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Agency. That agency will be responsible for the activities that involve processing of petroleum crude into end-use products. This includes gas that we use in cooking. This includes gas that probably we use in driving turbines to generate energy, to generate electricity. This includes the products that we buy from the filling stations, and the petrochemicals that the industries use in making plastics and the waterproofs that we see and use, and the whole products, a lot of products that are used as raw materials in the industries. So there are now two regulatory agencies, as against the former regime where it was the DPR that was in charge of almost everything. Now, the law intends that there will be a separate NNPC that will be entirely a limited liability company. It will no longer be a government corporation, because the NNPC, as it was known, stood for Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Corporation means that it's an agency or a company that is owned by government, and it was under the control of government agencies. And as such, it will be under the whims and caprices of political decisions of government. So the law envisages that there will be a new oil company owned by government on behalf of the Nigerian people, where it will be run like every other international oil company, like the Aramco of Saudi Arabia, which is owned by the Nigerian government, which is run like the Shell, like the Chevron, and Ajip and the rest of them. Now, a lot of things will change by this, because before now, the interest of government, what happened was that if Shell, for example, was drilling a particular oil well, Nigeria would own 60% of the proceeds from that oil well. This is called a joint venture between government and the IOC, that's an oil company. Now, NNPC managed the interest of the Nigerian government in the joint venture, where they will drill oil, get crude oil, remove the cost of producing the oil, whatever remains as the profit will be shared 60% to the Nigerian government and 40% to the international oil company. So the 60% will be given to NNPC to now transmit to Nigerian government. And some people believe that sometimes there are a lot of backpassing, corrupt practices that accompany those things. In fact, some people have even accused Nigerian government of not knowing the actual barrels of crude oil that is taken away from Nigerian. People have argued that sometimes the international oil companies bribe the people in NNPC to write down a different figure apart from the figure that was produced, only for them to get some money given to them. These are allegations in the air, and these are part of what is believed to be the problems bugging the oil and gas sector. NNPC was also responsible for managing Nigerian crude royalty. You know, sometimes action is done, the Nigerian part of the crude is given to NNPC to go and sell. That's the crude royalty. NNPC will manage it and sell it and return money to government. That is why NNPC was being looked upon by all the participating members of the Nigerian Federation, the federal government, the state government, and the local government, to pay a given amount of money to the federation account, which everybody will rush to Abuja to go and get the check and share the money. So things have changed now. NNPC currently will become Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. It's no longer going to be a corporation. It will be run on profit basis as a commercial venture. That it is still the snag there is that it is still owned by the Nigerian people, and these Nigerian people own it using the government agencies. The Ministry of Petroleum Resources and Ministry of Finance will become eye of the Nigerian people in the share structure, because the limited liability company is a company that is limited by the number of shares that he has. So it is no longer a corporation of government. It is to be run by a private company. There is a owning board of NNPC now. It's going to take major decisions in the company. There will be a management team that is going to company in Nigeria. So that is one aspect in the governance, the summary of what will happen in the change in the governance structure and framework. I can explain more about it. I don't think we have time to go into all the details of the change in governance structure.
All right.
Then the host column. Hang on. This aspect. I try to summarize it. That is produced in a host community, 3% of it will go to the host community, take care of itself, of the community will take care of themselves. So that's the law provides. Then the law also provides that this controversial aspect that people have spoken about, that it provides for 30% profit. It is different 3% that I talk 3% of the operating cost of the oil company that produces the oil in the host community. It is different from 30% of the profits that would have accrued.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you. The network is really...
I said you need to get the difference between the 3% of the host community and 30% of the profit to government, to the Nigerian government.
Okay.
Because if you don't get the difference, you'll be making a comparison between 3% and 30% unilaterally. Start understanding what they mean. 3% that goes to the host community is 3% of the operating cost by the oil company that exploits the oil and gas. So the 30%, it will be the 30% of the profit that would have accrued to government will now be reserved for exploring, looking for new oil in certain frontier basins. The frontier basins are the basins that are not located in the Niger Delta. You know, the Niger Delta geological area. There's a geological basin that's called the Frontier Basin. So it includes the Anambra River Basin, the Benue Basin, the Lake Chad Trough, and so on and so forth. So it is expected that 30% of the profit of government will be dedicated to looking for new oil in the Frontier Basin. Then the final one is that it is expected a certain part of monies that are obtained from the oil and gas sector will be devoted to the environmental management of the areas where oil and gas are exploited, so that there could be sustainable development of the area without having to destroy the place in the name of exploiting oil and gas.
Yeah.
That's what I can call the summary of the Petroleum Industry Act.
All right. Go ahead, I can hear you. I'm listening.
I thought we can afford to give it flesh if in the course of the discussion. I'm just trying to do a trip, a summary.
Okay.
If we take the details, maybe next 1 hour, we may not be able to exhaust the details of the PIA.
Yeah. All right. Tuesday, the president unveiled the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, assuring that the new company will guarantee energy security in the country. The president also assured stakeholders in the industry that Africa's largest NOC will adhere to its fundamental corporate values of integrity, excellence, and sustainability. He also added that the company would focus on becoming a dynamic global energy company of choice to deliver energy for today, for tomorrow, and for the days after. In his words, he's saying that our country places a high premium on creating the right atmosphere that supports investment and growth to boost our economy and continue to play an important role in sustaining global energy requirement. We are transforming our petroleum industry to strengthen its capacity and market relevance for the present and future global energy priorities. By chance of history, he said, I was privileged to lead the creation of the Nigerian National Petroleum Cooperation on the 1st of July 1977. 44 years later, I was again privileged to sign the Petroleum Industry Act, PIA, in 2021, heralding the long-awaited reform of our petroleum sector. And of course, the provisions of the PIA 2021 have given the Nigerian petroleum industry a new impetus with an improved fiscal framework, transparent governance, enhanced regulation, and the creation of a commercially driven and independent national oil company that will operate without relying on government funding, which was what you spoke on extensively, and free from institutional regulations such as the Treasury Single Account, Public Procurement, and Fiscal Responsibility Act. Now, over to you. What does the passage of this act really mean for our president?
Well, thank you, Dako. I think he has been fortunate, if you want to use that word. You cannot write the history of the Nigerian petroleum industry without the name of Muhammad Buhari popping up here and there. Like he said, he was the minister, what is the same as the Minister for Petroleum Resources in 1977?
Yeah.
Yes, when Obasanjo was the president of the head of state of Nigeria. So I think it was called a secretary then or whatever, but that's the same as the minister now. That was when some of the Nigerian refineries were built. That was when the NNPC was created from the Nigerian Oil Company. It used to be the Nigerian Oil Company then. So he created the NNPC from it. And now, after 20 years of struggle by the National Assembly in the Fourth Republic to pass the Petroleum Industry Bill into law, which did not succeed, he had the privilege of being the person that will eventually sign the law that will revolutionize expectedly the industry. going forward. So the Petroleum Industry Act will expectedly revolutionize the fortunes of the Nigerian oil and gas industry going forward. So history will not be written completely without saying that this new law was signed by President Muhammad Buhari. So to that extent, I think history will be kind to him, assuming the PIA succeeds in improving the lot of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, and by extension, improving the lots of Nigerians who are suffering in the way they are not supposed to be suffering, given the enormous resources that are available to Nigeria, in the oil and gas sector and other sectors. So to that extent, if on the other hand the PIA fails and worsens the lot, then history will also not be kind to him that probably the law he signed hasn't been the best for Nigeria. But I mean, it is hoped that in the best international practice, if NNPC runs like a private concern, as it were, which does not need subvention from Nigerian government, which does not need interference from time to time from Nigerian governments, which is not beclouded in the opaque structures that encourage corruption, like in other government establishments. It is expected that it is going to open up new vistas in the development of oil and gas in Nigeria. Now, the group managing director is no longer addressed as the group managing director. He's now the group chief executive officer, like every other company. So a lot of changes in the structure of NNPC will happen now. Some of those subsidiaries will be changed into different things. Now, it is expected that NNPC, now owning the refineries, will try to run the refineries like profitable venture, no longer a conduit pipe for siphoning away Nigerians' money. I mean, we have a situation that will have 4 refineries, 2 in Port Harcourt, 1 in Warri, 1 in Kaduna, that are supposed to have revolutionized the chemical industries in Nigeria and created uncountable number of jobs. Yet, these refineries are comatose. And thousands of people are being paid salary to date without producing a single gallon of products. I mean, it can only be a government venture where such system conducts money away without producing any dime. So now that it's a private, it's now going to be run like a limited liability company. It will be essential so that it is either you function or you die. If refinery does not work, you cannot expect government to make a budgetary provision to go to Nigerian government budget to bring out humongous amount of money for the so-called turnaround maintenance of refinery. After which, at the end of 1 year, the same refinery is not working and not producing anything, and people are taking away huge amounts of money. So currently now, government has started the process of rehabilitating the refineries. And it is expected that the rehabilitation will be done on a commercial basis. At the end of the day, the refineries are supposed to run as commercial ventures that would refine and sell products and make profit. And the profit that the company has made, dividends are supposed to be declared, and the dividends will be paid into the differential account for the benefit of all Nigerians. And if that happens, and if the envisaged development takes place, there are a lot of subsidiary industries that will be catalyzed by smooth functioning of Nigerian refineries and petrochemical industries. There are quite a whole lot of industries that will come out from there that will create a lot of jobs and add a very big milestone in the gross domestic product of the Nigerian economy. And even it will improve our foreign exchange earning as a country. So ordinarily, on theoretical basis, this is supposed to be a cheerful development, a development that would have opened a new door for development of the Nigerian oil and gas sector, which is an important sector of Nigerian economy. However, I must also add that it's not yet to hold.
Yeah.
Because as it is now, it is still government that owns the NNPC, in as much as the limited liability company.
Yes.
The Minister of Finance Incorporated and Minister of Petroleum Resources Incorporated are the shareholders. It is expected that in a couple of years, maybe a year, maybe two, there will be what is called a public offer, the initial public offer, IPO, where private interests, ordinary Nigerians, private companies can buy shares in NNPC.
Yes.
It could eventually go ahead to become NNPC PLC. So in that case, the governance process may improve, because as it is now, it is the government that still appointed the governing board of NNPC. And the government can influence the board to remove the managing director and appoint managing director. But one of the things that would have happened in good tidings is that it may no longer be a situation where nepotism would guide the employment of people who work in NNPC, because it's going to work on the basis of profit. But it will be a lot better if the influence of government is totally removed from it. I pray and look forward to a day that 51% of the shares of NNPC PLC will be owned not by government. You see, I have a touch with the struggle that led to the birth of Nigeria LNG Limited. It took years for the final investment, for the final decision to be made on Nigeria LNG, because there was a struggle between the ownership of 1% shareholding. The oil companies that partake in the ownership of Nigeria LNG insisted that the private companies must own 51% of the shares, and government could only own 49%. It was Babangida that would have signed that decision, but he couldn't hold, because that disagreement kept going on until government budged and allowed the private companies to own 51%. And the meaning is that it is the private companies that will decide how the affairs of the LNG is managed. It is the private companies that will be responsible for appointing, because the persons that own the highest shareholdings will appoint the managing director. And to that extent, you can see that the NLNG has become one of the success stories of Nigerian oil and gas sector. I mean, if the company continues to declare profit year in, year out. But if you look at the stories like companies like NNPC, NAFCON, Niger Gas, all those companies that were solely owned by government, you see that the interferences from political players did not allow the company to do well. So, personally, we still look forward to a day that the ownership structure will be such that the government will no longer be able to say who becomes the chairman of the governing board.
Okay.
Or who becomes the managing director of the NNPC. But a journey of 1,000 miles, they say.
True.
Miles, they say, start with a step.
True.
And this is the right step in the right direction.
All right. It's been Dr. Chigozie Anarodo, and we've been talking on the transition from NNPC Group to NNPC Limited. We started off with the PIA. PIA is now an act, Petroleum Industry Act. We'll go on a quick break, so my guests could sit back, relax, and listen to the audience. And at some point, of course, is going to weigh in on the contributions and observations from the audience. So we'll go on a quick break, tell my guests to take a pause. I'll be back shortly.
For the part of the conversation, dial 081-5101-7777 and 090-7112-1017. Please make your submissions known in a civilized manner. Put off emotional and all ethno-religious sentiments. Make verifiable claims on this platform. Respect the views of other callers, and 2 minutes is given to every color. Each person is entitled to only one call to enable others to participate. Point of view, airing your views for the transformation of our society.
All right, welcome back. It's still the point of view right here on Omega 101.7 FM. Ma Radio, your radio. We're looking at the transitioning from NNPC Group to NNPC Limited in accordance with the Petroleum Industry Act. Let's get you talking. Hello?
Good morning, my humble moderator.
A very good morning to you. A very good morning to you, sir.
It's supposed to come from a gate tomorrow.
Go ahead.
NNPC Group and NNPC Limited.
Yes.
We are very fond of literature in this country. As a matter of fact, I am not impressed in anywhere. When our AG says something, it shocks me, but only he was somehow, politically afraid to confront the elephant in the room. As a matter of fact, all those things are going exploitation. We are talking about all these foreign companies like Chevron and British company. When they have already bring out 300 barrels, they will tell you they bring only 6 barrels. And they have the people that are compromising with them there. Let me tell you, the viable alternative is state-controlled resources. That's the only solution, Mr. Speaker. As a matter of fact, I have told you, you will remember in those days when the West was doing good with their cocoa. It's not on my loss that the Eastern region was doing good with their palm oil. It's not on my loss that even the North was doing wonderfully well with their granite. But it comes today, the issue of oil era. They said, no, you will not have resource control. And you don't know where it's coming from. And that's why I told you, going to 2022 election will not solve the problem. At the end of 2024, I, Asoka, will ask all of you, Adam, where are thou? Thank you. Have a nice day.
All right. 0815-1017-777 or 0907-112-1017. You can follow us on our social media handles, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouSocial, and YouTube at Omega 101.7 FM for your comments, reactions, and contributions. Be part of the online community. Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Daku.
A very good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, and I greet our yes,
Go ahead.
all right. My name is Uche Ezemia, speaking from Umaka, South Africa. Now, we do this translating so let me quickly point out some key points that case that was signed into law, the Petroleum Act. First was, let's not overlook at the 3% proposed and now adopted 3% that should go to going to the post community. And then they recorded 30% that are the mapped out for oil exploration. Now, that 3% is not a big amount, considering that these communities are people bearing the direct front of every activity of oil exploration. Their farmlands are destroyed. The business, that is the fishery business, destroyed. The ecosystem is mostly affected. And yes, you are allocating 3% to them. And then of the 30%, you said you are allocated for oil exploration. Which now, let's be clear to your own Nigerians. In the last 3-4 years, each section of the country has received work of that, that kind of money allocated for exploration. They've been searching for oil, it's not existing oil in the sharp-rating crop that have not yielded any meaningful results. And they plunged in billions of dollars to it, and nothing is being done. Just leaving that one aside. Now, the coming on board will also bring about, because that is why they are now limited company, means that their shares will be declared in draft at the Nigerian Stock Exchange, shareholders will invest, and then it will bring about more efficiency from our direct, from our foreign counterparts. They will come with their money and their expertise. So that's finally that is why I stop. Now remember that most American and most European countries are now saying that as from 2025 they will change their technology. That is, they will no longer depend on oil. So why are we? Because they are now going maybe electric cars and things that are all work well. So why we ask ourselves, why are we clapping so much and backing the market as people have done something so that
all right.
Think of that find our economy, and stop spending so much on oil.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's a question, like someone would say, food for thought. Well, according to the Act, NNPC Limited will run a commercial and profit-focused organization under the Company and Allied Matters Act. Let's talk to someone else. Hello?
Hello, Dako.
A very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, brother Donatus Mandiri from Momoza.
Go ahead.
Just like the last speaker has said, this is so-called exploration, impoverishing the community. That this oil of time is in their place, in their so-called 30%. It's really unfortunate. So we have no hand in the promulgation of the so-called act and the rest of them. But thank God for the resource person there. It could ensure that the cabals, principalities and powers that have ruled this country well, the past years, God will dismantle them. I say it time without number even in this program. I don't know why Nigeria, to the best of my knowledge, is the only OPEC country that imports refined petroleum products from outside. So it's not easy for us to maintain our refinery so that Singapore, I've said the time without number, has no even a liter of crude. But they have not less than 20 refineries, so that they will refine in their place and be able to finance their budget. But this country exports crude oil exporting countries. The refineries handed over by Abubakar was actually okay. But these politicians dismantle it. Let the foundation that are suffering now, that make a bit of kerosene, fuel and all these diesels is as high as anything. So the resource person should help us so that we know that why is it that in Nigeria we could not refine our own crude here. It baffles me. So and although we'll continue to pray for this country, but I'm tired of the way things are going on in this country.
All right.
Thank you. From Momoza for going to the work here.
All right, thank you. 0815 1017 777 or 0907 112 1017. We are also live on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, Social, and YouTube at Omega 11.7 FM. Hello.
Hello, Dako.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. Jonathan is my name. I call from Ubuka in the south of Anambra State.
You're welcome.
Dako, what I want to say over this Petroleum NNPC matters is that the people at the north controls what is happening here. And the one that will affect the southerners very well, they try to remove it and call it a private company or a private institution so that they can now take control of that. Muhammad Buhari being somebody who instituted the NNPC, now bringing it out to be a private company. You see, there is a monkey hand in it. And this is why Nigeria is now drawing back economically. Nigeria did not want to do something by themselves. They cannot work. Let me tell you, Dako, a man who forget about his responsibility in the house automatically must be a borrower. That person must continue borrowing because he has nothing doing. So the government can no longer have any company that he manages. And that is why you see unemployment here and there. That is why you see unemployment everywhere.
because government can no longer say we are managing this company. You see what is happening? What is happening? So privatizing everywhere, and no, this company does not employ people. And you come and tell me tomorrow it will be better. It will be better. Now you see what is happening in the river Rhine area. They are now being disturbed with the oil spillage, and nobody is talking of them.
All right.
Thank you. Let me stop here for a while.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing. Well, the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited, Malakiari, stated that the company had adopted a strategic initiative to achieve the mandate of energy security for the country by rolling out a comprehensive expansion plan to grow its fuel retail presence from 547 to over 1,500 outlets within the next 6 months. This is the last call. Hello?
Yeah, finally, you picked my call. Good morning, Dakota, my good sister.
A very good morning to you, sir. You're my last caller.
I'm so glad I got you. I'm very lucky this morning.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Maggot Man, calling from my hometown in Umeshi, down south.
Go ahead.
Dakota, you see, it doesn't make any sense that you are a rich man. Very rich man in all sense of ramification. In fact, in all yardstick to measure richness. And yet, your children are wallowing in poverty. Your children can't put on good clothes. They don't have access to good hospital. They don't have that. In fact, life doesn't mean anything to them. They don't have security. That is Nigeria for you, the giant of Africa. I hate you. All these things they are talking about, NNPC, this privatization, PIP, PA, this and that. What is the translation to the common man on the street? That is the question everybody will answer. Will have to answer, especially the government. We are all fed up. I'm personally fed up with this country. With my years of experience as a human being, I can tell you confidently that this country is getting from bad to worse. And it is only we Nigerians, that can say, look, we have suffered enough. We will bring in somebody that will come and tell us that, look, God really bless this country. Why should we be bothering ourselves about petroleum when in the early 60s, they used palm oil, groundnut, and cocoa to make, in fact, it was shown that the southeastern region has the biggest, in fact, the fastest growing economy in the world in the early 60s. So what happened? Good enough. Very soon now, petroleum will become useless because America, the white people are wiser. They always have alternative, green energy, making the environment green.
All right.
So these people are just playing with Nigerian intelligence, and they're thinking that they're talking to Nigerians of the 60s and 70s without knowing that today's Nigerians are wiser.
Okay. All right.
Yes, but I'm sure you're not feeling comfortable there. In the next minute, NEPA will take off your light.
We hope they don't. We have power supply here. All right, I'm going to revert to my guest. So in 3 minutes, basically 3-4 minutes max, we can actually summarize on the calls we received. I'm sorry, I can't take any other call. I sincerely apologize. Over to you, Dr. Chigozie. Let's just wrap this up in 3 minutes.
Thank you, Dakota. And I'd like to thank the callers. The calls have been very incisive. Their inputs very touchy. I'll start from the last person because he made a very important statement. After we spoke all these technical grammars, what is in it for the common man? Because that's the final analysis. But I'd like to tell him what I want to correct you is that if a man has money in the bank and he cannot eat good food, and his family does not, members of his family don't enjoy the good things of life, maybe basic things of life, not really good, basic things of life, then the man is poor. He's not rich. That's by the way. The truth of the matter is that sometimes people mistakenly say Nigeria is rich. Nigeria is potentially rich, but not rich. Because if you can't transform the resources to better the quality of life of the people, then you are poor. Now, it is expected that the benefit of all these technicalities that we're talking about, I mean, I don't expect a common man on the street to begin to talk about governance framework and host communities, this and that. I mean, the interest is how does this thing now we are saying improve his life, make him have petroleum products when he wants them, and make Nigeria energy sufficient. And that is what we expect. Because one of the problems is that people have been taking government business not to be anybody's business. Therefore, it could be played with at any time. Government money is nobody's money, and people can embezzle the money whenever they like. The advent of the new law will mean that business will be taken as business, and the refineries are expected to work, because if they don't work, those who are working in the refineries will not have money to be paying salaries. They will lose their job. If you are the manager of the refinery and the refinery is not working, you don't expect the NNPC Limited to pay you salary for 1 year for doing nothing. So it is going to work as business. So you'll be forced to now make the refineries work. If you were used to taking the parts that were supposed to be used in repairing the refinery to go and sell, you will now be forced to make it work, because you know you're about to lose your job.
Okay.
So that's one of the things that would have happened. I want to respond to the man that talked about 3% and 30%. Yes, it was controversial, but I like to tell him that the journey of 1,000 miles will start with a step. See, when we're talking about the derivation fund, we started from 6%. Today, the oil derivation fund is at 13%. And this 3% we're talking about is greater than the 30% profit for the oil exploration. That's the truth of the matter. So the 3% of the cost of producing the oil is greater than the 30% of the profit. It's been estimated that the 3% will be about $500 million to $600 million. But the 30% profit will be about $60 million or so. So I mean, when the bill was first proposed, it was proposed at 5%. Later, the stakeholders, especially governors of the Niger Delta, requested for 10%. At the end of the day, a compromise of 10% was reached. And I would like to say something. If you want to get something done so well that no fault will be found in it, you may never start doing anything at all. It is better that we started the journey.
Okay.
Over time, change is something that nobody stops.
All right.
The change could be, we could take it up to higher percent. And somebody talking about the elephant in the room. My brother, a knee-jerk change may not happen. It gradually will begin to change. And I like to end by telling people that petroleum resources they are beginning to be phased out. And we are looking at renewable resources. But for now, we cannot wake up and throw away petroleum resources away. The resources are still going to remain veritable source of energy and sustaining energy in the world, even in the next 20 years. So the companies, even in Europe, gases are being sought for. Now that there's a war between Ukraine and Russia, Europe is in trouble because of the gas supply for cooking food in their homes.
Okay.
So the world will still need these resources over time. The phase out will only be gradual. Okay. But the point is that we would have used the resources gotten from crude, from petrol resources, to develop the agricultural resources, because agriculture should be the new oil of Nigeria. A barrel of palm oil sells higher than a barrel of crude oil in the market. But the point is that we have relegated agriculture to the background because of newfound petrodollars. The petrodollars have turned out to be a cost on the Nigerian system rather than a blessing.
All right.
It is expected that the new law will revamp the fact that the petroleum resources will become a blessing to Nigeria, just like the other countries that I have mentioned, rather than becoming a source of problems to Nigeria that has kept us in the state of underdevelopment for decades now.
All right. Okay.
Thank you, Dako.
Thank you so much for doing this yet again with me, Dr. Chigozie Anarodo. Do have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, listeners.
All right. All right. That's how far we can go on the point of view today. Coming up at 10:30. That's at 10:30. Would be the late Mega Morning Show, and Mimi would be here to have a good morning.